Hi, I'm Jordan, and I'll be reading the 12 Days of Christmas in Iowa. The 12 Days of Christmas in Iowa. Dear Aiden, hey there, cousin. I can't wait for you to get here. Iowa is awesome this time of year. Christmas time on the farm is extra special. We'll build snowman, ice skate on our pond, sled down our hills, and walk in the woods. And I can't wait to show you all of our farm animals. Want to learn how to milk a cow? There is so much to see and do. And since you'll be here for 12 whole days, Mom, Dad, and I have planned some trips for you too. Be sure to pack your long johns. It's below zero outside, and Dad said it's supposed to snow tonight. See you soon, Ella. Dear Mom and Dad, brr, it's cold here in Iowa. But we just put some logs on the fire and we curled up in a warm blankets, drinking hot chocolate. My toast have finally thawed and I'm warm and toasty now. I sure wasn't warm this morning though. Ella woke me up early so she was so excited to show me the newly fallen snow. The view out her window looked like a Christmas card. We couldn't get outside fast enough. We put on so many layers of clothes, I could hardly move. On our long walk through the woods, we spotted a goldfinch and an oak tree. That's a pretty cool combo. The official state bird and the official state tree. We also saw a young deer with his mom, a couple of wild turkeys, and a giant bald eagle. After our long walk back, I made my first snowman, and guess who landed right on his head? Yep, that little goldfinch. I could barely believe my toes, but boy, was that walk worth it. I'll take a picture tomorrow of all this snow. You'll never believe it. Aiden. On the first day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me a golden finch and an oak tree. Dear Mom and Dad, Ella and I went out to the barn this morning to do chores. Can you believe that Aunt Sue and Uncle Ross have horses, cows, llamas, sheep, hens, and two giant hogs? Wilma and Wilbur are as big as bathtubs. And guess what? Wilma's going to have babies. They're due in 2 months. Ella's 4-H project is to feed and exercise her piglets until they're big enough to enter the Iowa State Fair in Des Moines in August. If they look anything like their parents, the piglets are sure to be blue ribbon winners. Ella says Iowa has the best state fair in the whole wide world. There is even a movie and Broadway show based on it. Ella camps at the fair for 10 straight days so she can show her hogs, then auctions them in the swine barn. She also competes in crazy contests like cow chip toss and the turkey call. There are all kinds of rides and exhibits, including a life-size cow carved out from butter. Most of the snacks at the fair are served with sticks, so you can walk around and eat them at the same time. Pickles, pork chops, pineapples, and even salad on a stick. But Ella says the corn dog is best. I want to try one. Maybe I go next August? Please? With love, your son, who almost never begs unless he really important, Aiden. On the second day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 2 hefty hogs and a golden finch and an oak tree. Hi, Mom and Dad. Boy, do I have a story to tell you. Today we rode on a train across the highest and largest double-track bridge in the world, the Kate Shelley Bridge in Boone, 185 feet high and 2,685 feet long. I was pretty nervous. We were up so high and I could see for miles, and I could feel the bridge swaying in the wind. Then the conductor told us this incredible story. One night in 1881, a flood washed out the support timbers holding up one side of the bridge. A train carrying 4 men plunged into the river. A young girl named Kate Shelley heard the crash and decided she had to warn the conductor of the next train, who she knew would be crossing the bridge in an hour later. When her lantern went out, she dropped to her knees and crawled across the high bridge with only flashes of lightning to guide her. Once across the river, she ran for another half a mile to the train station to sound the alarm. The next train was carrying hundreds of passengers, but was stopped just in time, thanks to Kate. I felt a little silly for being such a chicken after hearing that story of bravery and heroism. She definitely deserves to have that bridge named after her. See you soon, Aiden. On the third day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 3 chain cars, 2 hefty hogs, and a golden finch and an oak tree. Dear Mom and Dad, my new favorite way to travel is by hot air balloon. It was so peaceful and quiet floating high above the cornfields laced with snow, it took my breath away. No, not because it was cold, but because it was so amazing. It was actually warm in the basket. The pros call it a gondola because of the hot air blowing up into the balloon. Afterward, Uncle Ross took us to the Indianola National Balloon Museum, which was built to look like 2 upside-down balloons. Indianola and Warren County hosted the Hot Air Balloon Festival for more than 40 years. The National Balloon Classic takes place every summer, and balloonists from all over the world come to compete for prizes. Every competitor gets a map with targets marked and a whole bunch of flour sacks. The players earn points by dropping the sacks closest to the targets. Doesn't that sound like the best game ever? The museum had lots of photos too. My favorite was one called The Night Glow. The balloons all lift off at once, glowing in the dark night sky like big glowing jack-o'-lanterns. Way cool. Aiden. On the fourth day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 4 big balloons, 3 chain cars, 2 hefty hogs, and a golden finch and an oak tree. Hi, Mom and Dad. It may be cold outside, but inside it felt like summer in the butterfly ring of Riemann Gardens in Ames. There's butterflies every shape, color, and size from all over the world, flying around in a big glass house. It's a really neat place to be, but if you two came here, you'll have to follow these rules. 1. Don't grab the butterflies. They're very fragile and their wings are easily damaged. 2. Watch where you step. Butterflies sit on the path where you walk. 3. Don't pick the flowers. The butterflies need the nectar from the flowers to survive. And 4. Be sure to make sure that for hitchhikers before you leave. Butterflies can land on you and catch a ride outside. Ella took a photo of my 5 favorites so you could see them, too. Did you know that monarchs butterflies fly right through Iowa every fall on their long journey to Mexico? They travel more than 2,000 miles along the way. Monarchs can eat the nectar from just about any flower. They suck up their liquid diet with a built-in straw called a proboscis. I sure wouldn't want to drink all my meals through a nose. Would you? Yuck. Aiden. On the 5th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 5 butterflies, 4 big balloons, 3 chain cars, 2 hefty hogs, and a golden finch and an oak tree. Hi, Mom and Dad. Do you know that the oldest covered bridge in Madison County the Imes Bridge, built in 1870, is right in St. Charles, Ellistown? I asked Uncle Ross why the old bridges were covered, and he said it was to protect the roadway. It was cheaper to replace roof and walls than the big heavy floor beams. Smart. Modern farming machines are too big to go through them now, so the covered bridges aren't used much anymore. Aunt Sue took us to check out the other 5 bridges in Madison County. The last one we saw, the Romus Bridge, that's the one that became super famous after the book and movie The Bridges of Madison County came out. It is also the coolest bridge of all of them because it's haunted. In 1892, a bad guy escaped from prison, and just as the sheriff's posse had him surrounded on the bridge, he rose straight up through the roof and disappeared into thin air. Howling a wild cry, he was never found. And to this day, he haunts Romus Bridge. Yikes. Sweet dreams, Aiden. P.S. In Iowa, everyone waves at you when you drive by, whether they know you or not. It's really nice, but my arm got a little tired today from all that waving. On the 6th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 6 covered bridges, 5 butterflies, 4 big balloons, 3 train cars, 2 hefty hogs, and a golden finch and an oak tree. Dear Mom and Dad, we loaded up our saucers and took off for a long drive to Burlington, a town on the Mississippi River. It has this crazy cobblestone road built by 3 Germans in 1894 that zigzagged 7 times down a steep hill. They call it Snake Alley, the most crooked street in the world. There is a legend that the firemen used the alley to test horses if a horse could take all the curves at a gallop and still be breathing when it reached the top. It was allowed to haul the city's fire wagons. Today, the road was covered in snow close to traffic, so Ella and I joined in with other kids and had a blast sliding down. It was really fun going down, but not so much funny dragging our saucers all the way back up to the top. After sliding all afternoon, we climbed back into our car, cranked the heat way up, and drove north along the great Mississippi River, which divides Iowa and Illinois. There were ice fishermen sitting on buckets and trailing their fishing lines into little holes on the ice. I was glad I was sitting in the warm car and not outside on a bucket. I sure hope they caught something. Thanks for buying me those long johns, Mom. Aiden. On the seventh day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 7 saucer sliding, 6 covered bridges, 5 butterflies, 4 big balloons, 3 train cars, 2 hefty hogs, and a golden finch and an oak tree. Dear Mom and Dad, today we continue north along the Mississippi River, ending in the northeast corner of the state, at a place called the Ijiphi Mounds, a prehistoric Indian burial ground near Makartet. Ancient Indian tribes patterned mounds of earth into shapes of animals more than 1,000 years ago. These mounds are called Ijifis. More than 200 of them are preserved, and 31 are shaped like bears and birds to honor the loved ones and the scarce beliefs. At first, it was hard to tell which animals the shapes were supposed to be because they were so big, but we soon made a game of it, and I guessed the most right. After our hike, we drove to Decorah to see the Vistorium Norwegian American Museum, which celebrates history of people from Norway who settled in Iowa. Mom, you would have loved seeing all the painted furniture and pottery. We visited an old blacksmith shop, 2 log cabins, and stone mill. But what I liked the most was learning about Julicini. That's the name for Santa in Scandinavian countries, and his pet goat, Yuli. If you've been good all year, Yuli knocks 3 times on your door with his horns, and Julisi greets you with a gift. In exchange, you have porridge ready for them before you go on to the next house. The Norwegians in the old days also believed in Nisses, pronounced Nisu, mischievous elves who like to play funny tricks on people. Alice said we probably wouldn't get to see any, but she was wrong. We saw 8 of them in the woods. We tiptoed away quietly. We didn't want them to play any tricks on us. Aiden. On the 8th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 8 tricky nieces, 7 saucer sliding, 6 covered bridges, 5 butterflies, 4 big balloons, 3 train cars, 2 hefty hogs, and a golden finch and an oak tree. Dear Mom and Dad, did you know that there are even farms for wind? We toured a wind farm in Alta today. 257 huge wind turbines towered above us, 26 stories tall, with blades the size of a jumbo jet wing. This is one of the largest wind farms in the world. And these enormous wind machines generate as much energy as 301,000 tons of coal. Winds along Buffalo Ridge are almost constant, making it possible to supply energy to 71,000 households in 1 year. Each tower produces enough energy for nearly 750 people. Wow, that's a lot of wind. I noticed that Uncle Ross was rummaging around in the trunk of the car, and I heard him say, "Hey, this wind is good for something else too." He pulled out a whole bunch of brightly colored kites, enough for each of us and some other visitors too. They weren't your average kites though. They were dragons, snakes, alligators. As we watched our creatures dance in the dark in the windy skies, Aunt Sue told us all about the color of the wind. Winter Kite Festival held in Clear Lake in February. Thousands of people came from all over to fly their kites out over the frozen lake. There is even a kite show set to music. I bet it's really something to see. Today, I colored the wind. Aiden. On the 9th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 9 kites of flying, 8 tricky nisas, 7 saucer sliding, 6 covered bridges, 5 butterflies, 4 big balloons, 3 train cars, 2 hefty hogs, and a golden finch and an oak tree. Dear Mom and Dad, today Ella took me to an indoor track where a whole bunch of cyclists were training for the longest, largest, and oldest bicycle ride in Iowa, RAGBRAI. That stands for Register's Annual Great Bicycle Ride Across Iowa. Since 1873, bicyclists of all ages ride across the state of Iowa through little towns. We joined in and did some bike training around the track with riders who were testing out silly outfits they planned to wear for the actual ride. Some wore bumpy pickle hats or pointy witch hats stretched over their helmets, and one girl had a feathery pink wing that fluttered behind her as she rode. There were people riding unicycles, mountain bikes, speed bikes, tandem bikes, and recliner bikes. When we took a ride break, some of the riders had stories to tell, blisters and twisted ankles, but also some of amazing concerts, great food, camping under the stars, and 1,000 of friendly people who greeted them along their route last July. They were very excited for the next ride coming up this summer. I think it sounds like a lot of work, riding 80 miles a day, but Ella pointed out that it's a great way for families to train and exercise together and experience Iowa hospitality firsthand. On the 10th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 10 speedy cyclists, 9 kites of flying, 8 tricky Nisas, 7 saucers sliding, 6 covered bridges, 5 butterflies, 4 big balloons, 3 train cars, 2 hefty hogs, and a golden finch and an oak tree. Dear Mom and Dad, last night we stayed in Sioux City. From our motel, we could see a tall, pointy structure that looked just like the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. Uncle Ross told us that the monument is for Sergeant Charles Floyd, the only person who died during the Lewis and Clark expedition. Expert thinks he had appendicitis. We learned a lot about his adventures at the Lewis and Clark Interactive Center. Did you know that the explorers traveled with a great big dog named Seaman, who looked a lot like our dog Harry? As we explored a day in the life of the expedition, we got our very own pencil journals to record our discoveries, just like Lewis and Clark did as they traveled from 1804 to 1806. Ready to continue on our Iowa adventure, we headed up to Le Mars, the ice cream capital of the world. We visited a nearby dairy where we saw 11 Holstein cows hooked up to a wacky-looking machine that mechanically milked them. Then, at Wells Dairy, we got to see how ice cream was made from that milk. Lots of stirring. The very best part of the day was visiting the ice cream parlor, but it was also the hardest part of the day. How to decide between so many hand-dipped flavors. I had the biggest and best ice cream sundae ever, with 3 scoops of ice cream, hot chocolate, caramel syrup, and plenty of whipped cream, nuts, and a cherry on top. Yum. Love, Aiden, who won't need to eat for a week. On the 11th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 11 cows a milking, 10 speedy cyclists, 9 kites of flying, 8 tricky Nisas, 7 saucer sliding, 6 covered bridges, 5 butterflies, 4 big balloons, 3 train cars, 2 hefty hogs, and a golden finch and an oak tree. Dear Mom and Dad, today we drove south along the Missouri River, went through the Lucis Hills. Rolling hills formed thousands of years ago from wind-blown soil, and Five Ridge Prairie, one of the best places to see untouched prairie lands as Native Americans must have seen it. During the drive, Ella told me about Rodeo Town, USA, in southeast Iowa. Since 1823, Sidney has been home to the rodeo championships, where you can see rodeo events of all kinds, from dummy roping to goat tying to Ella's favorite event, mutton busting. She told me she wraps her arms and legs around sheep and squeezes very tight for as long as she can. It's a wild and crazy ride, she said. This is nuts, I thought to myself. I couldn't believe Ella actually does this in a real rodeo competition. Then she said she would teach me how to ride out in the big barn when we got home. Cool. I was so nervous, my stomach started doing flip-flops. By the time we arrived, Ella invited her rodeo friends, and they all came over to show me how to be a mutton buster, too. You'll never believe it. I actually hung on for 12 whole seconds. Do you think Harry will let me practice on him when I get home? He's a sheepdog after all, and the perfect size. As we headed across the pasture to Ella's house, I took a good long look at the snow-covered cornfields under the star-filled Iowa sky. I never knew there were so many stars. Thanks for letting me come to Iowa. This was the best trip ever. Look out, Harry. Here I come. Aiden. On the 12th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 12 mutton busters, 11 cows a milking, 10 speedy cyclists, 9 kites a flying, 8 tricky Nisos, 7 saucer sliding, 6 covered bridges, 5 butterflies, 4 big balloons, 3 train cars, 2 hefty hogs, and a golden finch in an oak tree. Iowa, the field of opportunities. Come back and see us soon. And that's the end.